Last time we were looking at converting a program that took a coin flip to decide between one choice or another into something instead that was a dice roll. Essentially, random across 2 different options to random across 6 different options. So I finished that, and I'm going to go ahead and launch it for you real fast just so you can see what I ended up with. There we go. Let's take this to my desktop. And we'll take this to launch the program itself. Alright, so yes or no question, then press enter. How about, is it cold outside? And there's my question, so it looks fine, and when I'm ready, press enter. Die rolled high, so yes. Apparently, if the die rolls high, then it will be cold outside. Absolutely foolproof, right? Press enter to complete the program. Now, there's a couple things I don't quite like here. I wish there was a little bit more space in between my question and this press enter when ready. I do like the addition, but I wish there was more space though, so I should have added an extra escape with new line command, and I wish I'd done the same thing there. I think the other thing too, I think it would have been nice if there had been a slight delay between, well actually this part's fine, but a slight delay between the answer and this part. I think a delay would have been nice, but that's okay. It worked. So let's look at what I actually did to do this. What did I add? So I'm going to go ahead and open the program in TextEdit, and let's make this bigger so you can see what we have going on here. Alright. Now one other thing that I don't like actually is that the first time the die was mentioned was when it was actually rolled, so the user didn't know how this was being decided until after the decision was made. I don't think that's very great. I probably should have added some sort of print command higher up, but that doesn't matter. Not right now anyways. So we have our comments, we've got the import module, we have the user question, which is input that it saves, which it actually never did anything with again, so I might as well have not even bothered saving it, but that's okay. And then we have these results here. And basically whether it's 1 or 2, it's going to be no, because those are both low, we've decided. But this should have been the die rolled neither high nor low, but I forgot to replace that part. Neither high nor low, and we'll go ahead and copy and paste that and put it there. There we go, that was how I intended for it to look actually, and then we've got high down here. We've got the press enter when ready command, we've got the random, which is the die results, and then we've got, for each of the possibilities, the result that comes from it. Now, the very last one is result 6, and that doesn't have a conditional because there are only 6 possibilities, and after number 5, there's no reason to put die result equals 6 because that's the last one. It's already checked all the rest. Another thing to note is we have if here, whereas on the other ones we have elif, which is short for else if. And then the very last one is else, which we saw also in the coin flip. And then we have our print our answer, and then we have our final command to press enter when they're ready to complete the program. There would have been a nice option here to maybe ask another question, but I didn't do that right now. Now, being that there are actually only 3 possible answers, I really didn't even need 6 results here. I could have just saved a little bit of coding, and just had 3 results. And this could have matched for both 1 and 2 to be result 1, and 3 and 4 could have been both result 3. And actually, this could have just been, this would have been 5, because there's 5. And this could have actually just been else altogether. Save a couple lines. Now this could have been 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3 there, but I think that'd be a little confusing for them to go across, so I would actually rather have it just using odds so it better matches the possible random results. Of course, I could have actually done 1 to 3, because they don't need to know that it was actually a 3-sided dice. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. So that could have been 2, and that could have been else, which would have been 3, 1, 2, 3, and that would have actually made a cleaner, simpler program. And then I could have just pretended like it was a 6-sided die. Would have been a good idea to mention it somewhere else, but you get the idea. Alright, so a couple things here. We are using input, but in this, we're not actually even using that input again. At least in the previous program, even if it was superficial, we still did something with that input. Here, it's really ignored altogether. I mean, you put it in, but then it doesn't even, it saves it, but it might as well not, because it never uses it again. Alright, so let's deal with that part later. The next thing I want to talk about is the fact that we have multiple paths. So we had 1, 2, or 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on which version you want to look at. We also had the coin flip, which was similar, except we only had 2 choices. So I'm just going to hop into Photoshop real fast, just to sketch a few things out. Alright, so when we're talking about a program with multiple options, it's often a good idea to look at like the flow of the program. And as you start doing more advanced things, it's important to look at also how you're controlling that flow. Right now this is pretty simple, but it's still not a bad thing to talk about, because we can start simple, and then when we get into more complex things, you already have a rough idea of what we're talking about. So in the coin flip, we essentially had start, right? And user question, and then it was just a random between 1 and 2. If 1, then yes, and if 2, then no. Or maybe it was the other way around. Doesn't really matter, right? So it's just random, if 1 or if 2, yes or no. And really the dice roll wasn't any different, because we had the illusion of 6 options, but there really wasn't 6 options. There were really just 3 options, because each one was repeated twice. But even still, we could say start, Q, which led to a random 1 out of 6, or 1 out of 3 if you want to call it that. And then we had like over here, like 1 or 2, and those both became no. And we had 3 or 4, and those both became maybe. And over here we had 5 and 6, which both became yes. And so you can kind of map out where things are going and figure out how the program would flow and where it would go depending on which things happen. Now, this isn't that impressive right now, but it's very simple to understand in this method, and that's normally the best way to introduce it. We'd also mentioned before a magic 8-ball, and so if you had done this as a magic 8-ball, if you want to follow the true magic 8-ball with the 20-sided dice inside, each one having a different answer, this would look quite a bit different. I'm actually going to go ahead and say start here, and then Q, and then random 1 to 20, and then you've got like all of these potential options coming out based on what actually occurs. Etc. out to 20 of these things, right? So, yeah, lots of fun. Now, even this is still pretty simple, because I mean, yeah, there's a lot of little things to draw out there, but it's still all pretty superficial. It's just a random result dependent on what random variable is drawn. As you get into more sophisticated programs, this can be substantially more complex, but you get the idea.